Imagine you're going to a party. The people you know there are the host and one more person from elementary school, which is not really an extrovert. Then all of a sudden, the music stops and you cave yourself in. You slouch your posture and start to overthink every possible outcome from the imaginary scenarios. What do they think about me? Do I look funny? Why no one looks at me? Am I ugly? You cannot wait for the party to finish and go home to your safe place. We are currently facing social anxiety pandemic. From irresponsible parents who give the iPads to their kids just to shut them down and keep them quiet, to overusing social media in later years, which is a huge problem now, social anxiety may become the biggest issue in the upcoming years. In this video, we'll break down why we have social anxiety, and thanks to science, solve it once and for all. Hey chums, my name is Nick, and looking at a case of a person with social anxiety, there are few things that always surface. At least I've seen they surface in myself when I had social anxiety. The first one is that when we have social anxiety, the world becomes internalized. And the second one is the body language that reflects on our inner thoughts. When we cave ourselves in, we usually internalize the energy and attention, when in fact it should be externalized. Exactly the case with introverts, meaning the attention and energy is inside that person, and the person has a hard time conversing with others. In a situation when we have social anxiety, we usually shut down our eyes, which is how we fall in the trap of being socially anxious in the first place. We focus all our energy and attention to ourselves. The eyes are the windows of the external world, but when we face social anxiety, we shut down the curtains. And not using the eyes becomes internalized loop of negative thoughts. Why nobody looks at me? Why does he looks at me? Is this pimple so visible? Do I look funny with it? And a river of questions that makes the situation worse than it is. When phase one is done, meaning we internalize the energy and focus to ourselves, phase two is unavoidable, and it reflects everything we feel on our posture, on our face, on our body language, and people see this. Okay, maybe a dog will come and lick you, but no human being will approach you looking like a defeat. We then classify ourselves as socially anxious person. And this has to be changed because social anxiety can become so much worse. Up to the point where you will decline every invitation. You won't go anywhere. You won't go to any social gathering. And you will make your room your only place where you feel comfortable. I hate when we put labels on ourselves like I'm fat, I'm skinny, I'm socially anxious person. By labeling ourselves to be something, to identify ourselves with something, we harden the belief about it. For example, I kept telling myself before, I never remember names. And guess what happened? Every time I met someone, I forget their name as soon as they said it. So I don't like to put labels on myself, nor I want to put labels on people and put them in a box, because I believe with enough determination and belief and perseverance, we can change ourselves entirely and change our state. To change ourselves from having social anxiety, we can incorporate few tips and tricks thanks to science and change this mood or this state, let me say, of inner prison we fall into. The first is the spotlight effect. There is something in psychology called the spotlight effect. As the name indicates, this is the phenomenon where people tend to overestimate how much others notice aspects about their own look or behavior. In most cases, this spotlight phenomenon is the first trigger that causes people to have social anxiety. Let me break it to you, and of course we will support this fact by science. Most people don't give a shit about you, how you behave, how your hair looks, or if the pimple you have is funny. I don't mean to say this in a bad way. I meant to say it in the most comfortable way. If most people don't give a dime about you, then the first trigger to social anxiety is gone. But let me elaborate on this a bit more so I can convince you. In case you don't believe me, Tom Gilovich and colleagues published a paper in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology in 2000. In this study, the researchers brought in groups of students to complete an unrelated task in the same room and randomly assigned one of the students to put on an embarrassing t-shirt. If you must know, it was the t-shirt of Barry Manilow, which the researchers had previously established was highly embarrassing for this college population. The researchers asked the students wearing the embarrassing t-shirt to estimate how many people in the room noticed what they were wearing. The students wearing the shirt estimated that about 50% of the room noticed. In reality, only 25% of the people in the room were able to identify Barry Manilow's shirt. Interestingly enough, when different students were asked to watch these groups' recordings and estimate how many people they thought would notice the shirt, they had a similar estimate to the reality, about 25%. This means that actually wearing the shirt and being in the situation caused people to overestimate how many people would notice drastically. A second study was done in which students could choose between 3 non-embarrassing t-shirts, one with a pic of Bob Marley, one with Jerry Seinfeld, and one with Martin Luther King Jr. These are all well-known people that would be easy to identify. And once again, the students wearing the shirts estimated that about 50% of the room would notice and recall the shirt. In this study, less than 10% of the students were actually able to identify who was on the shirt afterwards. 10%. So while we want to fantasize that we are the main character in everyone's life, we are not. Most people are the main characters in their own life. Fantasizing, they're the main characters in your life, which we both know is not true because nobody else's life is more important than yours to yourself. Let me give you an example. If you run outside, butt-ass naked, in front of my apartment, I will have a good laugh for a minute and maybe talk about you for a day or two. But then, just like this, I have my own problems. I will completely forget about you. And I cannot think of anything more embarrassing than running outside naked for the whole world to see. If your problem with social anxiety is that you think that people always look at you, always look at your funny hair or pimple, they don't. And no matter how much you want to believe that to be true, it isn't. So write that off of your head. Nobody gives a shit about you. To attention-seeking celebrities, this fact might be hurtful, but to people with social anxiety is a huge relief. The second is the Prideful Effect. The Prideful Effect states that people who are considered highly competent are found to be more likable when they perform an everyday blunder than those who don't. The effect was first studied in 1966 by social psychologist Elliot Aronson. Aronson speculated that people considered superior by other people could become more attractive upon committing a small blunt or prideful, because these superior people were viewed by others as superhuman, and a small mistake would allow others to better humanize them, and thus like them more. Imagine seeing Jeff Bezos on live TV, or Brad Pitt, or I don't know, Jessica Lawrence, falling down on the red carpet. Oops, she actually did, and as a result, she's more human to us. Because while she's funny, beautiful, intelligent, rich, well-known in society, she is just like you and me. She also wakes up in the morning, she brushes her teeth, she also has a waking problem, and she takes a dump once or twice a day, just like you and me. These small mistakes is what makes us human, and they do happen to everyone. Here's a situation of what actually happens. Before approaching someone, say a man or a woman in a bar, we put all the things we want to say in a funnel. And this crazy brain of ours creates imaginary response from the person we are trying to approach to every sentence we want to approach with. And most often the imaginary scenarios have the worst possible outcomes because we take the overthinking process so far that there is no way we are going to end up with a happy story. So this funnel becomes thinner and thinner to the point where we cannot imagine saying anything to the person because everything we say has a bad ending and we never approach the person. It's human to want to be perfect and nobody wants to make mistakes. But that's exactly what makes us human beings. Making mistakes and not being perfect. To be honest, majority of us don't like where the world is going. The technology is progressing. We have global pandemic and social distancing. As a matter of fact, it will be worse. Because next thing we have coming is the metaverse, where all the people will talk virtually from home with these NFT skins that makes them a Shiba looking dogs or an ape or whatever the hell comes next. So things will be worse for those who have social anxiety now. That's why we need to cut out the roots now. Because with simple practice and going to social gatherings and asking people some simple questions, we can easily delete this social anxiety label we put on ourselves. I believe what makes us human and fulfilled and happy people is the social interaction we have with other people here and now. No matter how much we are trying to switch the real life interaction with the one online, it's gonna get much worse. So here's one assignment. If you consider yourself a socially anxious person, just go outside and the first person you see, ask them, hey, what's the time? Simply interact with them. If you feel comfortable asking them that, you can take it a step further. If they take out the phone to tell you the time, but they have a watch, ask them if we are going to stop producing watches because no one uses them anymore. Simply interact with them, share your energy with them, make them laugh, or at least chuckle, because the probability is that no one made them laugh that day. And you're going to make their day and make yours too. Another thing when talking to people is to keep asking questions. People love to talk about themselves. They are the main character in their own story, remember? And they want you to know about it. If you don't know what to say after that question, simply ask follow-up questions and get the conversation going. You may be throwing some joke in there. I don't know you, I don't know what kind of person you are, but I know that you have something to say to each and every person. It's not like one conversation is gonna make the social anxiety go away. No, that's not gonna happen. But the more we do it, the more chill and comfortable we become doing it, and we become better and better at it. There's an interesting quote by Amelia Earhart, and it goes, "The most difficult thing is the decision to act. The rest is merely tenacity." The fears are paper tigers. You can do anything you decide to do. You can act to change and control your life. And the procedure, the process, is its own reward. So no matter how many scientific facts or research papers or assignments or examples I give you, if you don't decide that you want to change this for yourself, no one in the whole world can change it for you. Champs, I hope this video gives you a little insight of what makes us socially anxious and what can we do to remove it. If you like this video, make sure to tap that like button below. And if you want to see more content on how to better ourselves on personal and professional level, make sure to subscribe. See you in the next video here. And now I'm gonna go and shave.